Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the February 4th special meeting for the Winchester Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to remind you, if you could, make sure you speak into the microphone for people at home, as well as for Lenice, our new clerk. Okay, roll call, please.
Kurt Warner.
Renee Waldron.
Jeanette Broder.
Sandra Strubar.
Nora Mukarski.
Julie Luby.
Tori Lavetri.
Shane Cintrella.
Jonathan Morhart.
Allison Pierce.
Thank you, everyone. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Do we have any items to add or to delete or change? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 3, information items, the presentation, Dr. Luby, Superintendent's recommended budget.
Hi, everyone. I am going to relocate so that I'm out in front of you.
She said towards the end we would get that. She'll do an overview and then we'll get the thing itself.
All right.
I think it's working.
Is that working?
Yep,
That's
we hear you.
Super. I'll do my best to remember to speak into it. It's a little awkward, but first of all, good evening, everyone. I am really, Joe, we lost the TV already. Well, I am really pleased to be here with you guys tonight. I am so proud to be the superintendent of the Winchester schools and am so excited by the potential of this district, the staff, and the students, and for what we can accomplish together. I want to thank you as a board for the opportunity for putting me in this position to be able to be here with you tonight. And I want to just say thank you to the leadership team from the school. So many people came out, which is really awesome, and to our board of selectmen members as well. That's really fabulous that we're going to partner in this and do the right thing. So let's jump right in. And a special thank you to Renee, who is supporting the efforts here tonight. Tonight, we are going to talk about where we are now, how we built this budget, and the factors that influenced it. And we're going to take a high-level look at the budget, and then in the workshops that follow, we'll be diving into the detail. So, this budget represents a lot of money. There's no two ways about it. It costs a lot to run a school district. It's nothing to take lightly, and we will all spend the time going through it in great detail so that everyone knows what's in it and feels confident that it's a budget they can support before you all make any changes that you make and before you adopt it as the board's budget. It is really important as a board, as a district, that we invest in our students. If our students can be successful, our schools are successful, and successful schools lead to a successful and thriving community. These are the vision and the mission of our school district. They've been in place for many years, and I'm going to give you just a minute to take a peek at them and refresh your thoughts on them. What jumps out to me in the vision statement is the statement that all students can realize and achieve their dreams. Unfortunately, I have to say that the budget I'm bringing to you is probably not about achieving dreams as much as it is about achieving needs. I would say to you, we have dreams and things we're excited about. This budget is more about meeting the basic needs. Before we jump into the actual budget, I want to draw your attention to some of the things that we are really excited about, proud of, that are happening in the schools currently. We are working very hard to improve school climate. Some of the things that are underway are our climate self-study. We've conducted a survey already of parents and of staff, and we've completed the student survey, which we'll be launching probably this week. And those surveys are being followed up with focus groups. Invitations are going out to parents for focus groups sometime in the next couple of days. You see some fun pictures there of some of the neat things that have been happening this year, talent show, parades. We've restored the tradition of having an evening concert. School staff and the PTO are working really hard on school climate for all of the obvious reasons. We also are working very hard on school safety. We, working closely with Tom Dillon, are implementing drills. We collaborate with the local fire and police departments. We are working to implement restorative practices. We have many of our staffs trained in the de-escalation of student behaviors. We're also currently studying dismissal at Pearson, and following that we'll do at Hinsdale School. Our afternoon dismissal procedures are a little bit chaotic, we feel, and so in the spirit of safety, we are working closely with Tom Dillon as well as the police to consider ways to improve that. And we are also updating all of our safety protocols, looking for common language, clear, articulated procedures so that when we need to call on those protocols, people know exactly what they are and what they mean when you say all the words. We also, obviously, as a school district, are very focused on teaching and learning. And in that sphere, in our efforts to improve student achievement, we've implemented very successfully, I would say, the CKLA reading program this year. Feedback from teachers has been excellent. We see a renewed enthusiasm with children, with the content knowledge that they're picking up. We've moved to the third edition of Bridges in grades 4 and 5. We're working very hard on making both our math and science curricula very hands-on and student-centered. So more and more of that is happening. We've been partnering with the Connecticut Science Center, using a lot of universal screening and assessments, and working very hard with our instructional coaches who are supporting implementation of new curricula as well as looking for standardized practice across grade levels so that students are having common learning experiences. So let's get a little bit into the process of how the budget was built. So when you build a budget, as most of you I'm sure are familiar, you have a lot of things you have to adhere to. So we watch for staffing models that are aligned with our district guidelines for class size. We have to comply with the federal and state mandates, IDEA, 504, meeting kids' needs, following their IEPs. We have contracts that we're obligated to for transportation, for technology, collectively bargained salary agreements. We maximize all of the grant funding that we get. We give back not a single penny, and we are always looking for other sources of funding as well. And importantly, we examine and implement all of our procedures and look for cost containment strategies. So within our process, we started this year with our goals, and we set those goals collaboratively within the buildings, as a district, as a superintendent, and ultimately the board as well. And from those goals, we established priorities. As part of the process, and as poor Nancy will tell you, we examined every position and every expenditure in the current budget. We went through every single line. I asked, I don't know, maybe 4 trillion and 17 questions. And Nancy has been a patient saint when I say, well, what is that? Well, why do we do that? Do we have to do that? As we went through the whole thing and made no assumptions that we would just continue to do something because we've done it before. After that, we went ahead and developed a budget based on all of those contractual requirements and the mandates like we talked about. And then once it was put together, again, we went through the process of saying, so what can we do to mitigate this increase? What can we reduce? What can we eliminate? What efficiencies can we find? So as part of that process, I mentioned that we established goals. And so I've highlighted the ones here which are really most relevant to our discussion tonight. The school climate, student growth and achievement, school safety, and putting forth a responsible budget. The budget that I bring you tonight supports our goals because we believe that if we improve the school climate, that student attendance will improve and student achievement and growth will also resultingly increase. So to do that, we need to address student behavior both proactively and reactively. We need to provide positive programming to enhance school climate. We need to support our dysregulated students who struggle to manage their own emotions. We need to maintain manageable class sizes that are within our guidelines. We need to increase safety as well as our sense of safety. And we need to be able to provide academic support to students who aren't achieving on grade level. The budget supports these goals by providing the structure and behavioral supports for students, maintaining appropriate class sizes, increasing school safety, and providing academic support. So, again, as I mentioned, as part of the process, we established priorities. The board worked together in late fall during a committee meeting as a workshop to establish priorities. And among the many things that we talked about, the things that rose to the top were school climate, student growth and achievement, and school safety. And within those goals, the priorities that emerged were the assistant principal position at Pearson School, behavior technicians, Chromebooks, interventionists, a tag teacher, school safety officers, and the man trap at Pearson. The other way that we worked to establish priorities was by listening to the staff. And I went and spent time in each of the 3 schools for drop-in hours, essentially, for a listening session, and spoke to staff across all areas of our district, both in terms of physical location, but also roles within the district. I spoke with the leadership team, with teachers, with paraprofessionals, really with anyone who would come forward and share their thoughts. And things that came out talking to the staff were increasing the support for student behaviors, prioritizing student learning, and having consistency in communication and procedures, which are supported through an assistant principal, through BCBA, interventionists. Substitutes actually was something that came up, and although it isn't necessarily reflected in the budget, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we really are focusing on recruitment, because we often have teachers absent without a substitute to cover. So we are looking really hard to find people who want to join our team. Maintaining class size was important, and then of course having clear safety protocols and a communication plan. So again, as part of the process and adhering to commitments and mandates, some of the things, these are just some examples, but we have class size limits in our teacher's contract, and what it specifies is that if you exceed those limits, there's a formula that the teacher is actually paid for having an overage in the classroom. What that means to us in this process is that if you're over the number and you say, well, we shouldn't add a section, let's just make the classes bigger, or let's cut a section and make bigger classes, there's a tipping point where that doesn't actually pay off, because if you cut the teacher, then the classes go over the limit, and then the cost associated with that. So there's a tipping point there. One student obviously will be not catastrophic, but it adds up quickly when you go in that direction. So that's an interesting caveat here. We also have to go by all of the things in our negotiated contracts. We did just negotiate a teacher's contract. As the settlements continue to come in around the state, ours still is absolutely below the average in the area. We have IEP services that we need to deliver, and of course, out-of-district placements for students whose needs can't be met in district. When we built the first draft of this budget, Nancy will tell you, I pretty much fell out of my chair. And I said, well, that can't be, and we can't do that. And again, I made her go through it with me line by line by line. Responsible superintendents recognize that a big increase is never going to be popular. And recently at a meeting of the Litchfield County superintendents, people were sharing their increases. And many of them were as high as ours or higher. And many others said, well, mine would have been, but will be, because one superintendent said, I cut 11 positions and we're discontinuing magnet school transportation. And I immediately texted Nancy and I was like, how much can we save if we eliminate magnet school transportation? And she said, nothing, we already don't do that. I'm mystified in a district that has 11 positions that they can just cut. If we cut 11 positions, we pretty much couldn't open. I guess, but there is definitely magnitude that happens in a larger district, but there are definitely offsets that you seek in order to mitigate a budget. In studying ours, after working really closely with Nancy and studying the history and everything else, one of the things that I see is that our budget has not kept pace with inflation. The roughly $20 million budget that we had 13 years ago, today would be a $27 million budget, just keeping pace. So making the bold assumption that we were reasonably staffed and had the resources that we need 12, 13 years ago, I think I went back to the table I had went as far as 2013. Just to have exactly the same and not a thing more would be a $27 million budget. And I can say that it's good news. I am not bringing you a $27 million budget. But that over time really has impact on what we're able to do. Last year in the budget season, there were extensive cuts, $370,000 that was in part shared with the Gilbert School. And in achieving that cut, the really last positions that I see that could be cut were taken. There were 2 part-time secretaries in Pearson and Hinsdale. Each had 1 part-time secretary, which allowed for coverage when one secretary, like the secretaries, have to go and bring the mail and come back. They certainly must have lunch and use the bathroom. And there was another human being there to answer the phones, answer the doors, the doorbells, and all of that. Those were cut. You can't have less secretaries than 1 secretary in a school office. There were, I think at one point, 1 kindergarten teaching assistant in each classroom. Last year there were 3 for 4 classrooms. This year there are now 2 for the 4 classrooms. They do a half day in each classroom. We had 4 behavior technicians. We're down to 3, although the behaviors have increased, not decreased. And a speech and language pathologist position was removed. The EL teacher was reduced from a full-time position to a .8 position. That was not driven by student numbers. It's not like enrollment in EL went down. She's just less able to spend as much time as she was with kids. And we have a paraprofessional that we borrowed, I guess you'd say, from special education, picking up some of that service. Sort of like in the giving tree, there was, I can give you my apples, I can give you my branches, I can give you my trunk, and we're down to the stump. I live in the real world and fully anticipate that there will be discussion around cuts, and I have to say to you, if there was something that I thought in good conscience I could bring to you and say, I would have, because I felt like I needed to, but there was nothing that I thought, all right, here's a place I can take one for the team. The other thing that we do, recognizing that taxes are a burden on the community, is look for efficiencies and make every single dollar count. This is not an exhaustive list, but just a sampling of the many ways in which we seek efficiencies. Things like joining consortiums. Our health insurance is with 7 towns and boards of education so that we benefit from the magnitude, although with the rate we have, it doesn't really feel like that. But we have other insurances also in groups. We purchase with groups. We, rather than fund our own food service management, which would require us to have more people, we do it through Ed Advance, which saves us money. We reuse things constantly. We reuse your board folders. When you pick up your materials, we give you the same envelope back each month. And we also have several people in the district who are wearing more than one hat. There are many districts that have lots of people doing different things that we have condensed. As an example, my assistant is also the HR person doing all of the benefits. Within the business department, people are doing multiple roles, and they're getting it done. People, I would say, really take one for the team to keep things running around here, but people are stretched thin. So, again, as a big piece of the planning process, the first place you begin is enrollment. How many kids are you going to have? So the bottom line, literally, is that we're up 24 students next year. Our kindergarten is the one to watch. At the current time, I've put a kindergarten teacher in this budget, an additional kindergarten teacher for, so I think we did the math. These are the COVID babies. We have, the way that you predict kindergarten is a little different than other grades, because other grades, you can look at the grade below, but for kindergarten, you look at live births in the town. And we have lots and lots of years of data that tells us, I think it might have been 85%, Nancy, you think, of the kids born in Winchester? I'll double check that, it's in your budget book, but we apply a percentage to the number of live births and it predicts the number of kids who will come to kindergarten. So based on that, there were probably 20 or 25 more live births than usual in whatever year that is, 2020 or 2021, that would make you kindergarten eligible for this coming fall. So if 88 students show up and we thought it was a good idea to cram them into 4 kindergartens, they would be 24 kids in a class, and it would actually cost us more than it would cost us than to add the 5th teacher because of all those overages. The class size limit in kindergarten is 18. The other grades, there's the bubble you'll see in 4th grade. The 5th teacher is coming up from, maybe not the same human, but the position is coming up from the 3rd grade. So that position is already in the budget, has been since they were kindergartners, I suppose. So as we get to the part where we're bringing together a budget to bring to you, we have difficult decisions that we made, and you all will have difficult decisions to make as well. And those are really based on the enrollment patterns, the student needs, and the priorities like we talked about. So I met with, as I said, the leadership team, the teachers, and all of you, thinking about the enrollment, the priorities, and the needs. And these are the things that I would have liked to have put in this budget to bring to you. I am wiser than that and knew that that would be catastrophic. And I like it here, so I didn't want to give you an excuse to get rid of me that quickly. But really, if money were no object, this is not even the complete list, but these are the things that we need to do right by kids and to grow. I'll highlight just a couple for you. Our chronic absenteeism is significantly higher this year than it was last year. Ideally, we need someone dedicated to just making home visits, working with families, understanding why kids aren't coming to school and getting them back. We need more academic interventionists to be able to reach more of the kids who are below grade level. We need to be able to provide professional development to staff on positive learning environments. We need more behavior technicians and a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst, right? Analyst. The BCBA is the certified person. The behavior technician is more along the lines of someone we hire to be a paraprofessional, who we then train to work with students when they are unable to manage their emotions. So those are the things that we would have loved to have put in this budget. And those are the ones that are included in this budget. And we'll talk about why those from that list of many. So the board certified behavior analyst, first, all of these you'll see very much address our district goals. The BCBA helps us improve school climate, it helps us improve safety, and ultimately would increase student achievement. If students are better regulated and able to stay in the classroom, they learn more. We currently, I'll say have, but we don't own, a .7 BCBA, which is actually two people who work for us in a consulting relationship and we're paid for with the ARP mental health grant, which is ending. There is some of it left, so the BCBA position that I put in the budget is defrayed by what's left in that grant, but it's not enough to cover it. That position for us isn't really a negotiable one. Their services are written into students' IEPs, and they're what makes it feasible for us to use the behavior technicians who are otherwise basically untrained. So the BCBA is in kids' IEPs, they train the much less costly behavior technicians, and they also support our teachers in making their classroom places where kids can be successful. So for the same, actually for less money, we can have a full-time person here than it costs to consult for two different people who collectively are .7. So it obviously just makes more sense to do it that way at this point. The SSOs we've talked a lot about. They obviously address our goals for school climate and safety, and feel very important in terms of sort of the never-ending stream of things that just keep happening. The way feels like almost a daily basis, someone turns to someone else and says, I'm gonna bring my such and such to school and kill you. And it just triggers a lot of things. And we really feel that having the presence of safety officers would be very helpful with that and all of the aspects of safety. The cafeteria monitors at first blush will seem like a strange proposition. They actually are there to improve student achievement. And again, you may say, huh? But the reason for that is that currently our interventionists, who are our theory of action on improving student achievement, are pulled from doing intervention to cover the cafeteria. And so they're in the lunchroom through a decent chunk of the day when they could otherwise be providing intervention for students. So cafeteria monitors, in the budget, you'll see them, it says 1.7, but really that's just when you add up all the little pieces. They'd be there literally just for the hours of lunch, 3 in each building, come in, cover the lunches and get out. Not an enormous investment, but one that would allow us to improve student achievement. And then finally, the kindergarten teacher, as we talked about, is enrollment driven. And the other thing I should say about the kindergarten teacher is we did, because we want to be able to take that out if we didn't actually need it, we did an early pre-registration and got the flyers up. I don't know if you've seen them, but they should be in doctors' offices, in the stores, and the library, and everywhere, to try and shake the trees and get a firmer sense of that number. It's already, I think it was 75 the last time I looked, so it does look like it's necessary, but should in the coming weeks as we're working through this, we get a sense that it's topping off and we feel comfortable, we would pull that back out. We don't want it just to have it, we want it because we think we need it. But we are watching closely. All right, so here's your meat and potatoes. That's last year's adopted budget, the proposed budget, the increase, and the percent. And we'll break that down a little bit. So, true story, if you take what we're doing today and just push it forward for the contractual increases, and I don't think much else, you're at 6.78. There's no, what we're doing today to just push it forward. The health, well, and I'll show you all the drivers behind it in a second, but, so, a budget with a 6.78 increase is just to continue tomorrow doing what we do today. The additions that went in on top of that are the ones we just discussed. The kindergarten teacher, the BCBA, the safety officers, and the cafeteria monitors. And that's what takes it from 6.8 to 7.99. So the biggest factors in that increase are the benefits. The health insurance is up 12%. I think that's probably impacting all districts. And we probably, because our salaries are not entirely competitive in the area, we have a decent turnover. People get to 4 or 5 years and then they can go make more money somewhere else. So we have a lot of younger teachers coming in just out of school, coming off their parents' benefits. Probably we have more and more people hopping on our insurance. So the rate is up and our number of employees on it is up. We also, and districts everywhere, are facing the exorbitant costs of special education placements. We are looking really closely at all of our students in placements to see if there are any patterns where we could say, hey, we have this group of students with similar needs that we couldn't address currently, but could we create a program and bring those kiddos back? So we are looking for ways to do that, but the cost for special education is crazy high. In fact, Thursday, starting at 5, we have a budget workshop at 6, but at 5 o'clock, some of the state, I don't think the representatives there,
One senator, and there's a couple of House members.
are going to be at the community college, and I'll make sure that everyone has that information if anybody wanted to stop it, and you'll have the numbers you're gonna leave with the budget book tonight. You could say to them, this is crazy, you need to help, but there is great momentum around the state for trying to figure out how to stop that, because it is just growing exponentially. And the special education transportation that goes hand in hand with that is also hard to find and exorbitantly expensive. Those three things alone are just about, I think it was about 46 or 47% of the increase. So that increase over last year, that circle represents the increase, not the budget. So if that's the increase, you can see the big chunks of it, as we just talked about: out-of-district tuition, transportation, the Gilbert tuition, the payroll, the benefits. Everything else in the budget is comparatively negligible in the increase.
That 6% is where we see our additions, like the BCBA, the school security. Is that in that other category? Or do you have that under payroll?
They're in payroll and benefits.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things that I wanted to point out, because we are talking about lots of money and big numbers, is how we pay for all this. You know, we always talk about an appropriated budget. There's a dollar amount associated with that. The state created the education cost sharing fund. I don't know if they call it a grant or, but ECS was designed to defray the cost of education to the taxpayer. And so while we're looking at a $24 million budget, almost $8 million of that will come back to the town of Winchester to defray that. So the cost that the town pays to fund education is $17 million, which also is the numbers don't match up exactly with what you've seen because that also includes the town support for education. And then we bring in about just a little over 2 million in grants as well. The last piece that I want to draw your attention to is, and we talked a little bit about this at the last committee meeting, Nancy built a really good capital plan that spreads out the costs that are going to become necessary. You know, none of these are like choice things. The roof absolutely has to be done. So the capital plan is also in your budget book, and I just mentioned here because I think it's important for us to be proactive and planful, and not wait for things to fall apart and then it's urgent and, you know, but the money hasn't been allocated to pay for it. So those things are there. So when we started, I said we would talk a little bit about where we are now, how we developed the budget, and sort of a high-level overview of that budget. When we conclude tonight, I'm going to give you a budget book that has absolutely everything you could possibly want in it that we can think of to give you. No doubt you will have questions and we'll be bringing you more information, but it's got a lot in there. Also tomorrow morning, we'll load this presentation and that draft budget on the website so that anyone who wants to take a close look at it can see it. What did I write to myself? As you go through the budget, you will see how it reflects student need. And you'll have an opportunity to see all the ins and outs as well as the history. We have workshops scheduled on February 6th, 11th, and 20th. They are all at 6 p.m. in this room on those dates. And I'm also going to give you, before we go, a tentative outline for those workshops. My thought was I want them to be really useful for you. So what I'm suggesting is that the budget book is a lot. So if we take the first chunk of it for the first workshop, and you sort of pour through that first piece, I mean, you're welcome to read the whole thing tonight if you want, but at least for the first workshop, if you get through those first sections in the paper, I'll tell you exactly which ones you have homework. That way, if you have questions as you're looking at it, if you would be so kind as to email those to me, I will start a document and put all of your questions in it so that you can all see all of the questions you're asking. We'll put responses there, and then we'll bring responses to the meetings. But the more we know your questions in advance, the better information we can give you, rather than saying, because it's hard to recalculate things on the spot and things like that. To the extent that you have questions like Tori's that are easily answered, of course we'll answer, but anything. So any questions you send in advance will be appreciated, and then we'll keep that as a document, and we can put that on our website as well, the questions that are asked and all the answers, because if you're wondering, someone else probably is too. So at those workshops, we'll go over any questions that you have. We'll go through that chunk of the book together so that I can highlight for you, or Nancy can highlight for you things we want to draw your attention to. Any questions you ask on the spot, either we'll answer or bring back to the next one. But we really welcome, I know Nancy does and the whole team does, welcome your questions, your engagement. When the time comes for you all to vote on a budget, I want you to know what's in it and feel that it's become your budget. Even if, like I do, you feel a little hinky, like, wow, that's a lot of money. If you're choosing to support it, then I know that means you know it is what it needs to be. Again, it's those needs. It's what the kids need. And my hope is that in the future I can stand here at this podium and bring you a budget and say, these are the dreams. We're there. And know that we do have dreams for the kids, and we still try to figure out how to weave them in ways that aren't financial. So we haven't stopped dreaming for the kids, but right now we're really focused on their needs. And again, I want to thank Nancy because she was a really good sport. I really did put her through the ringer, asking every single question, many of them 2-3 times, because the first time she answered, I nodded and smiled, and then like 4 days later, when I got new information, then it made sense. But we've really gone through it, and I'm grateful to the team for being here and for helping to develop this. Know that our schools are filled with teachers and paraprofessional and staff who are so dedicated in ways that honestly does not exist everywhere. So dedicated to our students. They show up in so many ways for our kids, and it's an honor to represent them to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for that presentation. Over 10 years ago, our district was in a position where we needed to look upwards, and we continue that vein. I'm confident that this budget, because it's goal-driven, I think it has a clear message to our community that safety and security for our kids is paramount, and I think that would transcend multiple parties in this community. I think persons on all sorts of ideological sides can get on the same page on that, supporting the ideas of an SSO, BCBA, cafeteria time where kids sometimes don't behave the way they're supposed to in a cafeteria. But it allows teachers and people and adults in the building to make relationships that helps the climate. And I think that's very important. So I know we've been through a lot in the last 10, 12 years of working hard, trying to look at the line items and really consider what to cut, what to really examine and prioritize. But I think the fact that we're safety and climate driven, I think that sends a good message to our families that if over 1,000 families come out for this budget, I think we can put together a reasonable, responsible, fiscally responsible budget. And I appreciate your goal-driven, you're attentive, Julie, to the needs and the surveys that you've done here with our teachers, with our parents, to figure out what it is our community really needs. And I'm encouraged by the number of parents that have come out to the activities that we now have, because education is an important part of the community. It is what drives families here. It will be what drives businesses here, so the grand list can grow. So I think that's an important investment. And so I really appreciate your time, your energy, and Nancy, the hours, and the administration, and the leadership, pulling together the people that you had to put together to put this to help us understand it. I think we'll look forward to the booklet itself, giving us the presentation by way of the screens, and I think that's going to be the start of it. But I hope to see the parents at every one of those, at least by YouTube, at every one of those YouTube budget workshops to help persons understand what's behind that. We have things that I think are fiscally reasonable, if you will. We do need a teacher and a growing enrollment that's coming, so that's something we need to service. But I'll leave the floor open to anybody that might have questions for Julie at this time.
Do we have the?
So the booklets will come to us?
I just didn't want to know what you were speaking
Okay,
about.
all right.
Before you all leave, you'll have booklets and information about the workshops.
So again, as you go through that booklet, email Julie those questions so she can have some clear answers for you. One of the things I think we can hopefully look forward to is the help from the state of Connecticut. I think their discussions over the excess costs in special ed might help us a little bit there. I do appreciate the time our grant writers spend in bringing in about a $2 million into the revenue stream so we can help defray some of the impact on our taxpayers. I think that's pretty critical too. So Wednesday night, Gilbert has a meeting, a workshop as well. The number inside the program that you have here is based on an estimate, if you will? Or how confident are you?
Greg said it would not be more than that.
Okay.
My sense is that's probably his number, but
Okay.
that was the increase, not the budget, obviously.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right, we'll look very closely at the budget. We'll comb over each line item, and we'll ask the questions. I know everybody has really good questions, starting with simple vocabulary words. I know we have an alphabet soup that we have to deal with, and I appreciate the workshop you gave us last time we were at the Finance Committee. That was really helpful, the baseline. Okay, so then, if there's no questions, we'll get our packets. But we're still, together for a moment.
those are your budget books. And a bookmark for the book with some selected vocabulary from our workshop the other night for easy access during meetings. 3 acronyms, 5 books, 5 bookmarks. Oops, sorry. And that is only a teacher could do. Your homework. Tori's not laughing.
Here's our homework. Your syllabus of assignments.
If we were, not that I want to jump ahead of myself, but if it were to be a snow day on Thursday, is that an automatic we don't meet, or is it a see what the weather is and perhaps we meet?
I mean, how do you guys feel? If the town hall is open, we go.
Yeah,
That's, yeah.
it could be better.
Yeah, 1970.
Right, I could put my
Thursday
four-wheeler
maybe
on.
a snow
Are
all
you gonna-
day
are you-
ice thing. I am here, so I could be here. It's just a function if it's like crazy ice or anything.
Ice would be the deterrent, but.
I did already reach out to Terry Hall to get some extra dates reserved in case if we do lose a meeting to snow. You may find that as we work through it, you don't need all 3 nights and that we move quickly.
Okay.
But assuming that we'll need them, I did get some backup dates on the calendar for, in case of that, because the weatherman is starting to send us his ominous emails about Thursday, so.
Okay.
Nor do you want to make a final, any questions, or should I call for an agenda?
Just one bit of, I know we're gonna go through this and we see each other Thursday. Today's already Tuesday.
It is.
Okay, I think to streamline your questions you may have for her, rather than phone calling Julie separately, do that email stream to use our time efficiently, okay? Okay, all right, thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone, for the presentation tonight. I take a motion for adjourn at 7:48.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Tori. Thank you, Jonathan. All in favor? All right, it's good to see everybody. Thank you, everyone. See you Thursday.
I was preparing for 12%, just so you're aware.
There
I
are,
was preparing for 12.
well, then I feel better. There is, in the CASBO spreadsheet, you must see that, right? Someone in there is above 12. I was like, oh, well, I'm nowhere near that.
I think it's region 18.
Are we still online?
Maybe.
I think region 18, I think Ian's coming in at like 14 or something. Wow. Yeah.
There are definitely a lot.
That thing's driving me nuts. That's blinking on and on and on. Okay, you're welcome. Okay. So,